Shiketkar stays with us. General Abhay Krishna, former Army Commander, Eastern Command, joins us on the broadcast. Also with us is Ambassador Rajiv Dogra for a diplomatic perspective. Shujaul Haq, my colleague, joins us from Srinagar. Shiv Aroor also with me. Shiv, is there any palpable desire from the Indian side to see a scale down without the Chinese moving back? Or is India also prepared to be there for the long haul and not let China bully us anymore at the LAC?
Well, Gaurav, India is definitely, prepared for the long haul. India has learned through all of its dealings with China that nothing can be left to chance. Obviously, India is not going to look at anything but a as Abhishek Bhalla rightly said, a pre-May 2020 situation as, a meaningful de-escalation. There has been some, a very small pullback by China and India in the Galwan Valley. But the very fact that the status quo has changed completely between the Galwan Valley, Pangong Tso and Hot Springs, means that acceptance of what the current situation is would be an absolute climb down by India, and that is obviously not acceptable at all. Otherwise, things would not have reached this level of military talks. Having said that, Gaurav, India is keeping an open mind when it approaches these talks, but there are things that are completely non-negotiable. The positions have to change. There has to be a pullback. Things have to move back to a pre-May 2020 situation, and India's infrastructural efforts will continue unabated. Those are the minimum, terms of reference as far as India's approach to these talks is concerned. Over and above that, whatever happens remains to be seen. But to answer your question, I think India is being very rational and realistic about it and is prepared for the long haul. It's been only 1 month here in Ladakh. It was 73 days in Doklam. We've seen what has happened in Sumdarongchu in the 80s. Who knows how long this one's going to last, Gaurav?
Oh, absolutely. And can China afford to antagonize India at this stage when the Chinese economy is in doldrums? That aspect in a moment. General Abhay Krishna was the Army Commander, Eastern Command, at the time that China finally blinked at Doklam. We'll come to him in just a moment. But on this story, I want to cut across to India Today. India Today's Akshita Nandgopal, who joins us with the profile of Lieutenant General Harinder Singh, the Corps Commander of Fire and Fury Corps. Now, why is this known as the Fire and Fury Corps? Because situated in Leh, this is the corps that's responsible, this is the army formation that's responsible for the protection of India, not just vis-a-vis China, but also Pakistan in the Ladakh part. From the other side of Kargil all the way to eastern Ladakh, this is the corps that's responsible, raised after the 1999 Kargil war. It's a very potent fighting force. Akshita, General Harinder Singh reads, understands China like the back of his hand. He's an analyst, he's a thinker, he's a soldier.
He's done several research papers that he's also put out on what's happening on the line of actual control on China, Gaurav. But let's sum up for you a profile of Lieutenant General Harinder Singh, who is attending that meet that is going to happen shortly. So he's the chief, as Gaurav told you, of Leh-based 14 Corps. As Gaurav also told you, is referred to as the Fire and Fury Corps. It's part of the Northern Command, and Lieutenant General Harinder Singh took over last October. He's also held several crucial positions in the army as someone who is an expert on counter-insurgency operations. He's previously been the DG of Military Intelligence. He's also served as the DG of Military Operations. He's overseen logistical operations as well as strategic movement as well. Now, Lieutenant General Harinder Singh has also commanded a brigade on the UN assignment in Africa. This was in Congo. Besides that, I also, of course, mentioned that he's an expert in counterinsurgency as well as operational readiness. So that is a brief profile of Lieutenant General Harinder Singh. As Gaurav also told you, he is someone who has deeply analyzed China, Chinese army movement, and also what's happening in Ladakh. Gaurav, back to you.
Akshita, many thanks. General Shiketkar and General Abhay Krishna with me on the broadcast. And General Krishna, you were Army Commander, Eastern Command, when Indian and Chinese forces came face to face at Doklam in Bhutan, India, China. 3 countries involved in that. 73 days it lasted, but finally China blinked. Now, should we be in a hurry to solve this, or should we just wait it out and see what China's intentions are? and ensure that status quo of pre-April is restored?
Excuse me, there is no audio from your end.
Okay, I'll just take a moment and set that audio link right with General Krishna. But let me quickly also bring in Ambassador Rajiv Dogra into this conversation. Ambassador Dogra, you've been reading China's Global Times. Many say that's the mouthpiece of that reflects the thinking of the Chinese Communist Party and their leadership. There are many points that Global Times in its latest editorial raises. One, they're very wary about India cozying up to the United States of America. They also don't seem to want this politicization of COVID-19. What do you make of Chinese thinking and their actions on ground?
Well, as you rightly said, they've been sending a lot of messages over the last few days. After keeping quiet tactically over the almost practically last month and a half, over the last 1 week, every day Global Times is giving a lecture or a homily to India on something or the other. For example, even on G7, the invitation for India to join the G7 grouping, they said India would be playing with fire if it joins G7. So China is obviously in an aggressive mood and is trying to browbeat India in as many ways as possible. Let me also go back to what Shiv said just now, that clients are already sitting at the commanding heights and they are not willing to climb down. One indication of that in diplomatic terms is the level of their representation at today's talks. While all along it was assumed that it will be at the level of lieutenant generals, because major general level talks had already taken place and they had not produced the results that was desired. So Chinese to insist that they would be represented at major general level is something that we should take note of. So it's not a very hopeful sign. The other thing which troubles me repeatedly is that unlike Kargil, to which a lot of parallel has been drawn about what Chinese have done to us now, unlike Kargil, this time there is no America which has the authority or the weight to tell a Pakistan, and in this case a China, that they have to step down and scale back. China is in no mood to listen to any America, and in fact China stares America in the eye every opportunity it gets. So we have a tough time and tough task ahead.
Fair enough, but India of 2020, is India of 2020 the same as India of 1999? And the point remains, would China continue to have access to the Indian market and a $51 billion trade surplus in case it remains hostile at the line of actual control? And Shiv, this is where the leadership, both political, diplomatic, as well as military, will be tested along with the country's resolve whether we want to continue letting China bully us or once and for all tell China to back off.
You know, Gaurav, much is being invested in this particular meeting, especially since it comes after a month-long standoff, which is still on. There have been many levels of talks that have been on so far, which have not really yielded any breakthrough, as a result of which we have these unprecedented lieutenant general level talks between the two sides. And just to add to what Ambassador Dogra had said, China actually doesn't have, follow the British system of promotions, and therefore the person responsible for that area, would be corresponding to our Leh Corps commander. So there is a view that much should not be read into that, but it should be taken note of because Ambassador Dogra is, of course, a polished diplomat. But having said that, putting that aside, the sense that this particular meeting is still strictly, even though it's Lieutenant General's meeting, Gaurav, we must remember that it's still a tactical issue of what's happening in Ladakh. and the terms of reference of this meeting are definitely not the larger strategic issue. Whether a message can actually be sent out, whether a lieutenant general will be empowered to send out a larger political message, we can all guess what the answer to that question is. When I spoke to 2 army chiefs yesterday, when I spoke to 3 northern commanders the day before yesterday, one unanimous thread I found was that apart from the immediate issue of the Ladakh standoff and the tactical issue on the ground, which needs to be dealt with, 2 things are common from what everyone said. A, that the border mechanism appears to have evaporated in Ladakh, which means a new mechanism is necessary. The mechanism that has worked all along and so beautifully so far has obviously, needs a total overhaul and an upgrade. And 2, that this particular meeting, if it is really successful in terms of giving China a larger message for the future, Gaurav, it is that the 2 generals will be able to clear the decks for a diplomatic and political engagement that can stop this dispute from becoming a problem in the future. That will make it a success.
Okay. When the Joint Secretaries of India and China had a video conference yesterday, a lot was said that don't let differences become dispute. Remember, that is what Wuhan and Chennai spirit are all about. But why should the onus only always remain on India, and why should China continue to violate the sanctity of the line of actual control each time it wants to? And remember, each time India doesn't push back, China continues to creep forward a little more each time, and Galwan has been added to that list of disputes now. That is why India is now extensively deploying along the line of actual control, not just at the traditional friction points or flash points, but also in certain other areas. The message is very clear. India wants peace, but will not let China bully us anymore. The Indian Army has moved 155mm howitzers, field guns and additional troops to strengthen the line of actual control after a face-off with Chinese troops at the Pangong Tso and Galwan Nala. Though the situation is understood to have eased at Galwan but remains the same at Pangong Tso, the army is clearly taking no chances. Troops have already been positioned along traditional flashpoints in Ladakh, including at Depsang in Chumar. Intelligence inputs had indicated the need for strengthening defences.
We must continue building our infrastructure on our own side of LAC to make life easy for our troops which are deployed along the LAC. Chinese have built their infrastructure. Capacity building takes time. Intentions can change overnight. And Chinese have shown their intentions quite clear.
The fact that the first face-off took place at Nakula in North Sikkim and was followed up by transgressions at multiple points in Ladakh point to a wider Chinese plot at the line of actual control. The Army and the Air Force quickly deployed additional forces at flashpoints and other important locations. In Chumar and Depsang in Ladakh, Parahoti in Uttarakhand, along multiple locations in North Sikkim and in Arunachal Pradesh.
जो अपने माउंटेन फॉर्मेशन है रिजर्व, जो हमारे इन्फेंट्री फॉर्मेशन है रिजर्व, और जो हमारे आर्मर्ड फॉर्मेशंस हैं, उनमें से ऐसे दस्तों का और ट्रूप्स का गठन करें जो कि काफ़ी तेज़ी से इस इलाके में डिप्लॉय हो सकते हैं, जैसे कि मैकेनाइज्ड इन्फेंट्री, जैसे कि कुछ एयर डिफेंस के दस्ते, कुछ स्पेशल फोर्सेस के दस्ते, कुछ नेवी के दस्ते अगर ज़रूरत पड़ती है तो इन सबको हम उधर तुरंत मूव करें.
India has also deployed artillery, armor, infantry combat vehicles and additional battalions along the LAC to deal with any military adventurism. India's rapid mirror deployment has also sent out a signal about India's defense preparedness. Both Sukhoi 30 MKIs and Mirage 2000 fighter jets have been flying sorties along with heavy lift aircraft moving men and material ahead of talks between senior commanders of India and China at the Moldo border meeting point opposite Chushul in Ladakh. China wants to keep India confined to South Asia, but India's growing stature has the dragon rather uncomfortable. Its incursions, whether in Galwan Nala or Pangong Tso, are to put India on a back foot. But the army is now effectively deployed not just here but also at other flashpoints including Depsang, Chumar, Barahoti in Uttarakhand, North Sikkim and along the Arunachal border. India wants peace but with respect. With cameraman Kripal Singh in Delhi, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. I quickly want to cut across to Srinagar where India Today's Shuja ul Haq now joins me with the latest on the story. Shuja, you've been speaking to your sources in the army and the intelligence agencies. What more can you tell us?
Well, Gaurav, of course, the focus is on today's meeting. There are, various things that have been discussed by the analysts. In fact, the people that I spoke to over past few days, both in the intelligence and also the defense mechanism here, suggest that, the one thing that they can hope for that could come out of this meeting is, some sort of a movement on de-escalation, which in itself does not mean resolution. Resolution, as per these experts, is something that can happen at a higher level, probably at a diplomatic level, or even further. But at this point of time, the best that both sides can achieve is some sort of a de-escalation, particularly focused in the Pangong Tso area. Why at Pangong Tso? Because this is where the first flashpoint started, in the month of May. That's why the sources in the army and the other establishments suggest that the focus right now is going to be on that level. Whether that is achieved or not in this meeting is something that we will have to wait and see. We are given to understand that the meeting could be starting just any time from now. We will really have to see how Indian side puts its points forward and what the Chinese response to those points would be. Gaurav?
Okay. Remember, there appears to be a wider design in what China's up to. It started with Nakula in North Sikkim, expanded to Pangong Tso, then Galwan. There are reports of some attempts being made or some movement across the line of actual control, of course, at this stage, whether it's at Chumar or at Demchok. So China trying to activate the line of actual control at multiple places. What's the bigger design? That story and lots more. We will continue to discuss that. But what is the government's thinking? Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh spoke exclusively to India Today and Aaj Tak Senior Executive Editor Shweta Singh. Excerpts of that conversation on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.